Welcome, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Tracy. Thanks for coming in with some video. For those of you coming in with video, hi, Wang. Great to see folks. Ellen's coming in. As you enter, if you could put in the chat where you are coming in from, where you are zooming in from in the world, and if you are in a partnership, how long you have been in partnership. So go ahead and put that in the chat. I am in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
And I'm in Chicago.
Woohoo! I have better weather.
That's right.
I'm Vancouver.
No
I'm
question about
Vancouver.
that.
Loveland, amazing. Colorado, no partner. Asheville,
Oh,
5
Asheville.
years. Oh, we've got San Miguel in the house.
Ah,
Beautiful. West Palm Beach, 4 years.
oh,
El Paso, Mill Valley, and
Mill Valley.
36 years. Hi, Katie, Elaine Gordon, San
Oh,
Francisco, 26 years. Santa Cruz, hey, Kristen, 34 years. Phoenix, and 42 years. Palo Alto, my old
uh,
homeland,
a
born,
lot of beautiful places.
yeah, really wonderful places. Keep populating that. We're going to give folks another minute or so to roll in. And thrilled to have everybody here. Thank you for taking time in the middle of your Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. I always have this moment where I'm like, wait, is it Tuesday? Yes, it's Tuesday. To come in and join the MEA community. Is anyone here first time at an MEA anything? I see some familiar names and would love to know if anybody's joining us for the first time. Okay, all familiar faces maybe. That's so great. And kind of a sweet gathering of folks today that will mean we can new. Sheila, welcome.
You.
Psyched you're
Welcome, Sheila.
here. So glad you're joining us. Lisa, welcome. Glad you're here too. Got Gabrielle coming in. Welcome, welcome. And love seeing, I've seen a couple people come in that have said, no partner. So that's also a beautiful way to be here and always things to learn.
Great.
So, Karen, will you ready to jump in?
Sure.
Let's get started. So, I think folks will continue to trickle in and just want to let folks know kind of where we're going today. And to introduce Karen, we're going to have a conversation, and then at the end, we'll really open it up to Q&A and hear from you directly, folks in the room, and it'll be more of a conversation. So just want to let you know that's coming. If you have a question that pops up along the way, go ahead and put it in the chat if you don't want to forget it. And then we'll have time to talk at the end and bring people up. So Karen, who I'm thrilled to be talking to today, Dr. Karen Skerrett, is a licensed clinical psychologist, and Karen has spent more than 40 years helping our relationships not just survive, but thrive, especially in midlife and beyond. And she's collected hundreds of stories from partners across the lifespan in order to help us better understand which couples actually create and sustain connection and nurture something that's really important at MEA, wisdom, over time. She's taught at University of Illinois, Northwestern, and the University of San Diego. And she's got a couple of wonderful books, including Growing Married and the co-author of Positive Couple Theory, Couple Fairies, Couple Therapy, and Couple
That too.
Resilience. That too. And she's leading a workshop at MEA next month called Rekindling Connection, a retreat for couples in midlife and beyond at our Santa Fe ranch. And so super excited to be connecting, Karen, and learning more from you about what real connection looks like in relationship and how to cultivate the stories that really promote our change and growth over time. And I'm super excited to get into this, how conflict can actually be an entry point for growth. So welcome. So excited you're
Thank you.
here.
Thank you.
And just want to dive in with a
Yeah,
question. Is that okay?
absolutely. I'm
Okay.
delighted to be here. It's my favorite topic in the world. So yes, jump in.
Yay. So you've described midlife couples as sometimes feeling like two ships passing in the night and where we just keep life going. But and things might even look fine on the surface, but there's connection that's fading. Can you talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I was really happy to see people plug in with how long they're in a relationship if they are. Although a lot of what I say today is going to apply all across the board. But midlife and beyond, midlife is kind of an interesting time. It's called the rush hour of life, actually. And 45, maybe to 60, as the demographics change and we live longer and longer and longer, we keep tweaking the life cycle and changing how long the stages are. But this idea is it's pretty much 45 to 60. And called the rush hour of life for good reason. I mean, if you think about yourselves or you think about, parents, relatives, those years are full of really crazy balancing acts. Everybody is in the prime of their work life, so they're feeling a lot of work pressure to keep at it, do better. If they have kids, they're juggling the insane schedules that young people keep nowadays. They're even busier than us adults, if you can believe it. And oftentimes they're caring for older folks. So it used to be called the crunch years, but I sort of like the rush hour even better because it gives you that feel of being on a treadmill, which I hear from folks all the time, that they're on it, they know they're on it, they don't know how the heck to get off. So I tell folks that really the biggest issue with this fading connection that Mary asked about is less than a problem with knowing how to communicate or a myriad of other things you'll read about and hear about on TikTok. The majority of relationship problems stem from one thing, and that's neglect. Do you ever have a plant that you bought in the store and thought, "Ooh, that's really kind of nice. It's going to liven up my living room." And you buy it, you bring it home, and you put it in the corner, and then 20 things come up, right? And you look at it each morning as you go out and think, I got to water that thing. Ooh, it's kind of looking brown. And then you think in the middle of the day, oh, wow, still looking bad. I should do something. But 20 things are calling your attention. So bottom line, your lovely plant that held so much potential and you were so excited to have around is now dead. Well, relationships are really the same way. Um, Emotional disconnection doesn't happen overnight. It happens after little unnoticed micro shifts that happen one after the other, and they accumulate. And the signs are things like you notice that you start to have kind of shallow conversations. Somebody said to me last week, I said to myself, I'm going to carve out this time and we're going to sit down and we're going to actually talk about something meaningful. And I found that I did sit down and we looked at each other and I felt like, it's just too hard.
Mm.
So we'll keep it superficial. And that eventually, if you avoid tough conversations long enough, it becomes a self-defeating cycle, right? You stop feeling attached, you stop feeling in tune with each other, and you stop offering emotional support.
And so when couples find themselves in that position of feeling that distance, and what I'm hearing you
Mhm.
say, then there's more avoidance and it can
Yep,
become a vicious cycle almost.
yep.
What's a
Mhm.
good first step to finding our way back?
Yeah. Well, when we are living an outpaced, overbusy existence, the first and most critical thing to do is to pause long enough to notice it. and take your noticing seriously and name it, even out loud to yourself, or especially out loud to yourself, and say, I feel disconnected. I think our connection is broken, or however you want to put it. But name it, take it seriously. Don't walk past, don't go on to another task, as tempting as it is. So that's the first thing. And if you can carve out some time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, ask your partner, what's been going on? Yeah. Tell me a story about your day or your week. Um, and I always tell folks, starting when you feel particularly disconnected, starting from the positive is really such a game changer. Being able to think of something. Thanks so much for emptying the dishwasher this morning. Boy, that saved me so much time. Any little thing. Thanks for the cup of coffee. Starting there softens up your listener like not much else. And the last thing I would say that is maybe overlooked is do something fun together. Don't try to talk. And this is always where I tell couples who struggle around making time for conversation. Say, hey, we used to play pickleball together. We haven't done that in 2 years. Let's go. Let's just hit the ball ourselves. Or let's go back and play tennis. Or let's take a walk around the block. It's a nice day.
So it doesn't all have to be super serious, is what I'm hearing. Like finding time
Nope.
for play, connection, noticing the little
Right.
things, naming how
Right.
you're actually feeling.
Right.
I love
Right.
that. And I love
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
specifics. And somewhere in there, you talked about storytelling. And I
Mm-hmm.
know central to your work is this idea of what you call a couple's we story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And could you just explain a little bit about what that is and how our we stories can shape our relationships?
Absolutely. I have been fascinated by stories my entire life. And I, not coincidentally, picked two professions that first nursing and then a psychologist that really allow me to listen to stories all day long. Um, so it's really, really been great. And early on, two things really kind of shaped how I got into we stories in the first place. One was with my therapist hat, I noticed that a lot of couples coming in for couple therapy or even just kind of a consultation, or I do these relationship checkups, would all say the same thing. And that was that, well, they wouldn't say it clearly, but I named it, that they had a hard time recognizing the impact of their actions on their partner. They didn't really think about, well, there's me and there's you, and then there's this third entity called the relationship. And that's got a life of its own. And that's what we need to pay attention to. So around the time I was putting that together, I was doing a lot of research and I had this project going that was collecting stories of people who were really challenged. They'd gone through a life transition, they'd gone through something. And this one study was looking at couples who had a breast cancer diagnosis. And one of the things that stood out, I was interested in what makes one group of couples adapt better than another. How the most resilient couples all took a team approach to what was happening to them. They would say things, they used we more often than other couples. They took this attitude of, well, okay, it's happening to her, but it's happening to us, and we're in this together, and we are together going to face this. And that really, really struck me. And at the time, there wasn't much of a vocabulary for we. I mean, we live in a very I culture, right? It's all
Yeah,
about
I'm thinking
it's
about
all about
this.
me. It's all big, big. big I. So myself and some of my colleagues thought, we know that our minds are formed in relationships, and we know that the way we relate is through stories. When we tell stories all day long, right? And we listen to stories. It's the way our minds work. We have to process all the data coming in and find ways to make it meaningful. Well, that's how, uh, that's why you have a story, is it tells you how to connect the dots, basically. So I started studying couple stories, and what I found was there was this thing that we called the we story. And the we story is a particular kind of couple story that reflects the mutual identity that the couple has and the one that they describe as the lived experience of their relationship. And most importantly, it confirms their mutual caring. So when we do studies, or if I'm just asking couples in my practice, give me a we story, what I ask them to do is write an account of an event in your relationship that serves as a reminder of your love and commitment to each other and to the relationship. So I brought a couple of my stories with me today, and I thought maybe it would be fun to just listen to one.
Please.
This is one of my favorites. This comes from a couple in their early 40s, and they had just, after years of a lot of up and down, they were finally able to adopt a baby. So you can imagine it threw them for a real curve. And here's the story that they told, and then I transcribed. Our story comes from the time we were in the thick of things, exhausted, depleted, second guessing ourselves right and left. One morning, we were both in the kitchen, draped over Kevin's high chair, desperately trying to get him to eat. He probably felt our anxiety because he was crabbier than usual. We had 2 jars of baby food, each different flavors, and we kept taking turns trying to stuff each of them in his mouth. Well, he wasn't having it. And then we started to argue. At one point, the jar spilled, the contents all mushed together. One of us just stuck a spoon in the mess and fed it to Kevin, and big shock, he ate it. It looked so gross, but he had this huge smile on his face as this horrible color dripped off his chin. We both cracked up. We decided it was the perfect image for us. 2 separate jars, very different, but when you put them together, they make something we couldn't have imagined and way better than each of us alone. And the catalyst to our realizing this was our beautiful boy, who brought plenty of stress, turned each of us upside down and inside out, but helped us build something completely amazing and wonderful. Now we keep 2 jars of baby food around, even though he's into solids, to stand for that moment of awareness. All we have to do when life gets rough is look up on the kitchen shelf at those jars.
Oh my gosh, what I love that not only that example of a story
Mhm,
that brings the couple back into memory of that we,
mhm,
but
mhm.
also that they picked a visual cue
Yes,
to live in
yes,
the home to remind them of that. Do you see
yes.
that happening, that it being a helpful thing for people, or was that,
Definitely. And
yeah.
and sometimes people they come to it on their own, which is lovely. But I'll probably do this exercise at the workshop. And I often send people out. And of course, the ranch is so gorgeous, send them out to find an object that symbolizes their we story. So they might come back with, a rock or a
Mm.
shell or but it's always very, very meaningful. And of course, it's something they can, like this couple did, kept and used it as a reminder.
It's really beautiful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing
Yeah.
and that kind of visceral image of how it can bring us back into anchoring with our
Mhm,
commitment. I'm
mhm.
learning a lot from this conversation, also taking notes here. Um, and
Good.
MEA, I love that you brought the ranch in too. As folks I think know, MEA is a midlife wisdom school. So that kind of, I love the rush hour years as a term to kind of take time and reflect. And so I want to ask specifically about wisdom. You've
Mhm,
said that the kinds of stories couples tell about themselves can create wise mindsets.
mhm.
And so what is based on your work and what you've seen through your practice, what is relationship wisdom? And what are the characteristics of wise coupledom?
Well, after we collected these so many stories of folks at different points in time, we started to think, what really stands out for all these couples? And the standout was that they had a capacity to connect individual concerns to relationship consequences. I
Mm.
mean, think about your own habits and your own patterns. Um, let's say you say to your partner, I know I've been really busy lately, and I'm going to be home, and we'll have dinner tonight. We'll have some time together. And then a meeting gets called, you come home late, you forget to text, you don't let your partner know. So if that's a one-off, that's one thing. But if that begins to be a pattern and
Mm.
you think about it as how it's impacting you, like, well, poor me, I'm so stressed, they call these last minute team meetings, and what am I supposed to do? What can I do? But if you think about how is your partner going to process that? Well, one of the things about stories is in the absence of information, we like to make up things. So we fill in the blanks, right? And so a real common fill in the blank for a lot of folks with relationships is, well, they don't care about me.
Mm.
That's it. They don't give a damn. And if they did, obviously they would find time to text. Whether or not that's true in a way is beside the point. The point is, can I take accountability and say, all right, there's me, there's you, but there's also this relationship. If I keep on with this pattern of not showing up, not really being accountable in my relationship, where is that going to land us? That is not, I mean, it might be helping my job performance. I can hope my partner will understand. But long term, that is not going to nurture the plant. It is going to have dry leaves and keep falling. So that was very, very powerful. Mutuality was sort of at the heart of things for these couples. They talked a lot about we're stronger together than apart. We're each other's rock. And many of them had a purpose beyond the relationship. They said, we really believe that the family is very powerful. We want to be there for our kids and our grandkids. So we take a family trip once every 2 years. And, it's not a big thing, but make sure we all are carving out time to be together. And that becomes kind of this community priority, right? The other thing that really stood out was they had a real drive to grow and not just adjust. It wasn't just, well, what is going to hit us now and how do we cope? It was, what can we learn from this? And how can we grow as individuals and support one another and grow the relationship?
I,
They also,
I
I was going to
just
say,
want to say like
yeah.
that line of commitment to grow and not just adjust. I mean, I think about change as
Mhm,
something that happens no matter what, but the
mhm,
decision to transform is a different thing. And so it sounds like there's a real choice point,
mhm,
not just going to go
mhm,
through the motions and let change happen to the relationship. We're going to claim it.
mhm, mhm. Yes,
Cool.
yes, for sure. And the really cool thing is when we started this, 10 years, 15 years ago, um, wisdom was not thought about. It was kind of thought of as woo-woo, or if you were an academic and you were going to study wisdom, it was like, well, forget about tenure track. I mean,
Yeah.
right, right. And now it has really gotten a lot of scientific attention. And so we know that there are a number of things that individuals can do that can promote wise practices and wiser decision making. And so I've sort of been always promoting the idea of well, how does that apply to the relationship?
I love this work and this way of thinking about wisdom in wise relationship is such a beautiful framing in the context of
Mm-hmm.
story
Yeah.
and in
Mm-hmm.
this practice of noticing. And so I would love, you keep mentioning like it's so important. Don't let we forget to notice the plant that's dying in the corner or
Mm-hmm.
noticing the
Mm-hmm.
patterns. Um, so why and how do you cultivate kind of that kind of curiosity and attention at this stage?
Mm-hmm. Well, really, this applies for any relationship at any stage. Ask questions. Ask questions. Um, Try to think about, I often coach couples to think about what their kind of growing edge is. Like, what's something right now that's bringing you a lot of excitement? What kind of relationships do you find that you're in that just really recharge your batteries? Okay, so then you think about two or three people and or two activities. Schedule a time with your partner. Maybe it's only 15 minutes, but schedule a time to share that with them. Tell your story. Say, hey, I want you to know what I'm um, up to these days. And you share it. You're talking about you, which is always so much more of an opening for the other person instead of sitting down and saying, well, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about? What are you doing? Right. Oftentimes the other person will feel like this is an interrogation. It's not a conversation.
Mm.
So start with yourself and just then ask questions. And this is the piece that's probably hardest for most of us. Actually, listen to the answers. Don't go in with a scripted answer in your head. Well, I'm going to ask this and then I'm going to, and where they're talking and you are already formulating what you're going to say. That is not listening.
Mhm.
So, really practicing what I call active listening, where you are present and there and really interested in what you hear. And that generates curiosity. I hear from a lot of people, I'm not really a very curious person. I don't know, or I don't know what to ask. Well, think about something you're interested in
Mhm.
and share a little story about that. The other thing that is really crucial is scheduling some regular times just to do, I call them, State of the Union, whatever you want to name it, we time, but once a week, maybe 20 minutes where you sit down eyeball to eyeball and just share and listen to the other person. Some couples like to have an agenda. Other couples like to have it more free form. And I think experimenting with what works for you is the best. But the point is, you are giving your relationship an opportunity to stay updated. That couple I referred to when we started, who sat down and she was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. It's very hard if you are out of touch with your partner's life to know where to start
Mhm.
because so much happens to all of us in one day. Well, think about 3 weeks accumulating and sitting down and you go eyeball to eyeball. It's like, why start? So make it regular. Make it a priority. And I've mentioned this before, but maybe reignite old interests, things that you'd forgotten, or try a new thing. Our brains crave novelty. And if you've been together with somebody for 20, 25, 30 years, wow, a lot of uh, passivity can set in. And so something new, something different, something you've never tried before.
I
Breeds
love,
curiosity.
Karen, all of the practical things here too are
Mhm.
so great. I know that in my own experience and for others, sometimes what keeps us from sitting down for that 20 minutes or being slightly avoidant is a fear of conflict,
Yep.
or this idea that somehow conflict, it means that something's wrong or it's something to fix or avoid. Like if we're arguing, something's broken rather than it's just healthy conflict.
Mhm.
So thinking about the role of conflict, how do we see conflict as more of an invitation, as something to really work with and invite in rather than avoid or worry about?
First of all, if you're one of the people that feels like I would like to avoid conflict whenever possible, you're not alone. You got a lot of company out there. And maybe a place to start is what you just said, Mary.
Mm.
Change the way you think about it. Instead of thinking about if somebody says the word conflict and you're going to think, ugh, think about conflict and go, mm, mm, as though, wow, maybe that's not something to be afraid of or to avoid. Maybe it's something that I can learn from and something that can really um, promote closeness. I think one of the things that make folks so kind of conflict avoidant is that uh, conflict is all about vulnerability.
Mm.
When we are in conflict or there's tension between ourselves and somebody that we really care about, we're at our most vulnerable. And that is scary. And so it's normal to want to um, avoid it. But if you think about vulnerability as the route to intimacy,
Mm.
then if you want a real abiding and lasting connection with your partner, you're talking about intimacy. And so I think just really working to change how you approach conflict for yourself, right? Kind of do a deep dive, your own inventory, and think about, well, what's my history with conflict? Did this come from? Did I grow up with raging parents? And so I think that's the way you handle things that don't go well, or um, do I grew up with raging parents, then I'm not even going to go there. I'm not even going anywhere near it. So take a look at some of your own um, history, your own learning about what conflict experiences you've had. And there are lots of, and I'll spend time on this again in the workshop. There's lots of skills that couples can have. I mean, this is the other thing. When I'm working in therapy with couples, there's enough of this, the blame. And I encourage everybody this is not this is not about blame. This is about a place to learn more and to understand. And conflict is the entree to that. And, none of us got great relationship skills from our families. We just didn't. Um, and many of the things that help us have better conflict are all learnable. I mean, that's the great news. Things like how to practice self-soothing, how to do an effective repair, how to make an apology. Apologies are way more than sorry, way more to them. And they're skills that you can all learn. And as well as compromising and allowing yourself to be influenced by your partner.
Mm.
So there's a lot that can be done for conflict and getting some new tools in your toolkit.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And
Mhm.
before we open it up to Q&A from folks in the Zoom room here. Just want to, Connor, thank you for dropping that in the chat, the retreat information coming up end of April in Santa Fe. And I realized I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. I'm Mary. I actually work with MEA. I'm not a random interloper. And I'm on the Santa Fe Ranch. I'm the lead facilitator there and on the ground program director in Santa Fe and get to work with many of our wonderful guest faculty as well as teach purpose and curriculum content there as well. So Karen, anyway, I'm super excited to see you in Santa Fe on the ground
Me
and just
too.
wonder, you've woven in some things about kind of the retreat and how you think about working with couples in a retreat
Mhm.
context. Anything else you want to share before we jump into Q&A, just so.
No, I'd say underscore that I'll be spending a lot of the time emphasizing the things that I've learned over many, many years. What I think really makes the most difference in building a flourishing relationship. There'll be plenty of time for partners to work together. And this is a time for fun. And it really is a time, it is a time out. It's like a gift you give yourself. So the pace, and I did a workshop last year for MEA, and one of the things I carried away was they have such a wonderful pace there. I think that the learning is so phenomenal, partly because they really know how to create a safe space that make people want to share and relate and connect in maybe for many in ways they never have before. So um, that's that's a huge gift.
Thank you. Really excited that you're coming back.
Mhm.
Um, so want to open it up to questions and people can, you can either raise your hand and Connor, thank you for bringing folks up, or you can drop a question in the chat if you don't want to be, if you don't want to talk, whatever works. So anyone want to get us started? I'm going to put us on gallery. I'm going to look at everybody on gallery view to see some of the folks that are here. Great. Okay. Thank you for the instruction. I always need that too, to be reminded of how to raise my hand. Um, any questions? Any questions? Karen, as we're waiting for folks, what is the most common question or thing that you find people um, grapple with or wonder about that they might not even realize is kind of underneath the original questions they're asking?
Mhm. Probably one of the really common things is um, what is triggering me in this relationship? What is happening when I show up with my partner and I find myself saying things I can't believe I say? What is that about? And then what do I do about that? Um,
I can
yeah,
relate to that one. Yeah.
that's a common one. Yeah, that's a common one, and it's also, of course, it's in the belly of the beast of conflict, conflict management.
Those triggers and then and yeah, regulating enough to
Right,
respond and not react. I think
right.
about the quote we talk about at MEA of from Viktor Frankl, attributed to Viktor Frankl,
Mm,
that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in
mhm,
that space, we choose our response. And in
right.
that choice is our growth and our freedom. So how do we slow down through that noticing to make real
Yep,
choices rather than just coming out of triggers? Beautiful. Okay, we
right.
have a question from Guy. How best to react when you see your partner reacting from past hurt?
Um, I'm I can answer, but I will do a preface and really be honest. I instead of going right to my answer, I'm going to ask you a question because I think it's important. If you feel like sharing, could you say even a line or two about how do you know your partner's hurt and what have you already tried?
Hmm. And Guy, you can, if you're
You could
open
thank you.
to chatting. Would love to bring you up. Otherwise, if you want to write something in the chat, that would be
Mhm.
great. Or none of the above. Oh, oh,
Oh,
hi, Stephen. I thought that was uh it
hmm.
doesn't look like Guy is
Okay.
engaging. Um,
Oh, he said he can't open audio.
oh,
Hmm.
drat.
Yeah.
Um, Connor, can you
Or
no? Okay. Um,
or write it in the chat, maybe.
yeah, can you write it in the chat, Guy? Just a little bit. And then while we're waiting on that, do you want to say more about that, Karen, or go to another
Yeah,
question and
here's
then
here's
circle
why
back?
I ask it is I I always start from a strengths perspective with folks, because I think we're more often than not operate out of sort of a deficit mindset. I'm not worthy. I don't know. I'm not good enough. Right, on and on. And I'm very curious about how it is you're picking up that your partner is hurt,
Mm.
because that is number one, a terrific skill. So to me, okay, ah, g- great, thank you, thank you, Guy. That's very helpful. So your your partner has had experience with other people who have given her a particular kind of mindset.
Mhm.
And that is that if I speak up, nothing good happens. So what what you're invited to do is to say to yourself, wow, I have a chance here to make a whole different experience possible for her, to make my goal being able to have conversations with her that are safe enough so that she has an experience of me that's different than she had before with her brother. And this is a process that's going to take some time, but basically, you'll go a long way by just asking questions. Wow, honey, what was that like? So what were some of the kinds of things he said? Oh, really? So what would you always be quiet, or did you ever push back? Or so you are curious with her to share more of that experience. So as she shares and you are present, listening, interested, caring, she's having, in a way, a corrective experience with you, her partner, that's very different than she had with her brother. Does that help?
Beautiful. Thank you. And Guy, thank you so much for providing more
Yes.
context. I think
Hmm.
that's really helpful. We had a comment from Tracy who says, to keep our relationship strong and respectful, I try to give my husband a reason to choose me every day.
Ah,
So my behavior,
great, great.
self-care, and how I treat him is guided by this, and wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I say hallelujah. Go for it. That's wonderful. That's absolutely terrific. Yeah. How is it going?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Tracy.
It's going well. We've been together 33 years and married for 27.
Uh-huh.
Um, and through my life, I mean, we met when we were in college, so we've had the benefit of, you know, history.
Uh-huh.
But I see so many people put so much energy and effort to getting into a relationship, like
Yeah.
the catch. And then once they're in the relationship, they kind of like have this assumption that there and no more work is needed. And so
Right.
I've always thought to myself, well, he has a choice every day. So I never serve the same meal twice in a row.
Wow.
Like I try to keep dinners exciting. I try to, maintain the friendship. And the hardest years were when our kids were living at home, trying to keep him first and still like show that I cared for my kids. But I also realized the
Mhm.
kids are going to grow up and move away, that I had to really nurture the relationship with my husband. And I think where that had its pros and cons, I think in the end that it was the right thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Terrific. There's so much wisdom in what you're saying, Tracy. I think what very often happens is, yes, there's a lot of energy and output in the early stages of relationships, and then the honeymoon is over,
Mm.
and you suddenly realize, whoa, this is not the person I thought. Now what? Now what do I do? And one of the other characteristics of our wise couples was exactly as you said, they kept the long view. They were able to think about it just exactly as you said. You know what? We're not always going to have these little tiny people that are draining us day in and day out. We're not always going to have adolescents. We're not always going to have people in the house other than us. Then what?
Right.
And so you took action on that and are making a plan for, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do every day to make sure that when they are gone, we're not strangers.
Mhm.
It's awesome. Keep it up. That's great.
Thanks, Tracy.
Mhm.
Other questions or reflections or comments? Would love to hear from folks. Okay. Quiet crew.
Uh, mhm.
Jeff, sounds like a great retreat locale with Pace for Grace. Yeah, MEA is really, I just was with a couples retreat a little over a month ago, and there is something, the ranch in Santa Fe is about 2,500 acres and 30 miles of trails, and it is, for those of you who've been to Santa Fe, the spaciousness
Mhm.
of the land and the sky. We talk about this, the New Mexico sky is our ocean, just the light and time, and it's a great place to step out, Karen. I love that you
Mhm.
talked about this opportunity for reset and reflection and play too. Um,
For sure, for sure. One of the things that still gets me is, you know, one of my biggest takeaways from the nursing part of my career was how vital prevention is. I mean, we'd see patients back over and over and over again for things, and it was mainly because they didn't take care of themselves or do any of the things the doctors suggested the first time. And we go to our dentist, we go to the doctor for checkup, hopefully. We, have all these different regimes to take care of our health. We don't do that for our relationships.
mhm.
And if any of you have been reading or up to date on the Harvard study, the longitudinal study that talked about what is the most important thing for long-term health and wealth being well-being, not money, it's relationships. And it just, yep, that's it. Harvard study of adult development. It is I'm so struck all the time when I think about how little we actually do to take that seriously and say, I'm gonna check in, I'm gonna see how are we. I ask couples to have a conversation that says once in a while, how are we doing? How are
Mm.
we doing? And it really helps them keep the focus back on we're in this together. Our power is our team, our couplehood. That's where the power and the strength comes from. So what are we doing to nurture that?
It's really beautiful, and putting that we story in the center of the conversation
Mhm.
is a great reminder. And along with those 20-minute times once a week to actually
Right,
schedule into the calendar
right,
to
right,
have that deep listening and
right.
sharing.
And
So
somebody put in the chat, I love this. This is bumper sticker. Remember our differences. Remember our differences, that we're two different people. Oh my goodness, that is, um, I remember when I was first with my husband, that I used to be actually surprised when he had a different opinion or a different goal than I did. And learning to recognize my partner is not me. They're a person in their own right, and they're very, very different, is a lifelong learning.
beautiful. My husband here, but out of camera range, wants to know what active listening looks like.
Oh,
Beautiful question.
yeah, it sure is. Um, it looks like a combination of silence, creating space for the other person to take their time and share at the pace that feels safe to them. And it might include it's body language. You're not sitting there like this. You're not sitting with your eyes downcast. You're eyeball to eyeball with the person. You're, if you're particularly aware, you can focus on synchronizing your breathing with theirs. So if they're on the inhale, you're on the inhale. There's a certain amount of co-regulation that happens in close relationships anyway, but there are things we can do to amplify that. And that matching breathing is one. Um, a posture that sends a message: I'm open, I'm here, I'm available, I'm interested, I care. And it might be head nodding, it might be, oh, it might be some of that. Right. It doesn't include phones. It isn't, there isn't music playing in the background, particularly because for most people that can be a distraction, not all, but it is just you and the other person. So, that help?
I also love there was I think this was in the New York Times. I'm not going to get the source right. But to ask to make sure there's time and presence available to you before the conversation, and to ask before you begin to listen, do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged?
Oh, that's great.
Which I
Yep.
always love because, are we listening then just because the person needs to be
Mhm.
heard? Are we listening because they want some support with something specific? Or do they just need to be held?
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
So I love that question.
Yeah. And I do love that response too. That's wonderful, because we want to, it's like you're helping your listener so that they can listen better if they know what you need and want from them. Is this a conversation about logistics? Who's responsible for getting so and so to soccer practice? Is that what this is? Or is this about something else? And I make sure to tell couples, make a date for the conversation. Don't try to have it when you're passing each other at the kitchen island.
Mm.
Say, I'd love to find some time. I'm free about 6:30 tonight. Could we take 15 minutes? Is that good for you? And here's what I'd like to do.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
two families. Wei Wang, I love that. And Karen, thoughts
Mhm.
on that? This is about a system of multiple families coming together.
Yes, yes. And are you saying, how do you get the multiple families together, or how do you get time, private time?
Yeah, I moved from Shanghai to Vancouver.
Mm.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah, in China, maybe, you know, it it North America, you also is new family. In China, not only new family, is two big system. If
yes.
my daughter have her baby, I be coming to the grandmother. I still need living with my daughter, with their family. This is big system, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You ask me, how do you? But in China, if I still have a working, yeah, this is my big family first priority. When I working, always this is my privacy time. I
Uh,
can do
mhm.
everything. This is why a lot of Chinese women they like working. Working, this is
Yeah,
our
free
space.
time. Yeah, right,
Yeah, great
right.
time, high
Mhm.
moment.
Right, right, right. Mhm. So it's how to carve out enough time for just you, as well as a little bit of time for the two of you, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm business coach. Yeah, I like this conversation, like this
Good.
topic. If
Good.
I'm some in emotion, maybe sometimes take care of my grandchildren. I'm so tired.
Yeah,
I take
yeah.
my time is I like reading, I like travel.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I
Mhm.
like sleep. This is my own, my time is very happy.
Right, right, right. And that's very important. You need that rejuvenation, right? I mean, we all do. We can't keep going without any kind of replenishment. And it's just off giving yourself the permission to say, I need this. And if I want to keep my relationship alive and flourishing, I need to find a little bit of time for that too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Wei Wang, for bringing that
Mhm.
in too. And the systems and the cultural pieces are
Yep.
also a big deal here.
Right.
As we close, Karen, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your time, your expertise, your kindness
My pleasure.
through this conversation. It's really been a pleasure and really, again, excited to see you in Santa Fe. And as people are going out, just want to say thank you to everyone for taking time to be here, for engaging in the conversation, and for sharing your thoughts. And on your way out, if you want to put a gratitude in the chat or something you're taking away, that's awesome. And there will be a recording of this if folks want to share it. And thank you so much and have a beautiful
Yes.
week.
Yes. Thank you all. I so appreciate all your sharing and your engagement, and just my pleasure. Hope to see you in Santa Fe.